The wonderful and delightful Lee Hansen, of course, kicking us for One Nation, which is surging in the polls yet again, buddy. And Daniel Wild from the Institute of Public Affairs, among other things, big supporters of Tony Abbott and his history of Australia. So. Daniel, I'm going to start with you. Nats make the decision, which will have no doubt been cheered on by your good self, which was, that's it, gone with net zero. Very importantly, though, and this is part of the calculation, is climate change is still a thing and we need to do something about it, but we shouldn't be running at the same pace as places, like where the UN wants us to go. Important nuance that will no doubt be lost in the next couple of days, but let's be simple. If the Libs don't match this, then the coalition is going to break and will break until the next election. And I'll be honest, talking to lots of people in the Nats, they're happy with the three-way contests, and Lee would be very happy for that too. But your thoughts, mate?
Well, I think this is a very important development. Don't underestimate this. We've now broken the back of net zero, and net zero is now a dead man walking. We're not going to get rid of it overnight. It'll require a change of government to do that. But we now have a contest, and net zero is such a bad policy that it will not withstand a political contest, just like the voice to Parliament. As soon as that was exposed to the public, as soon as there was a debate, support for it fell off a cliff, and that's what's going to happen to net zero. And it's got to be said, the usual suspects in the media are going to deride this as climate deniers and a fringe issue and this, radical conservative base. But, this is a mainstream issue. And what the Nationals, and I think the Liberal Party is going to follow very soon, by the way, what now needs to happen is they need to communicate this to the public. They need to explain to the public why net zero is the number one cause of their energy bills going up. And if they're able to achieve that, the coalition will start going up in the polls again. And it's also got to be said, people like, Senator Matt Canavan, a good friend of your shows, he was derided as someone who just was, blowing in the wind, banging on about this issue. Well, guess what happens when you provide leadership? 100%. You are able to shape the political system. So don't underestimate how significant this is. This is the beginning of the end of net zero, and good riddance, I say.
Lee, again, one of the reasons why One Nation has surged in the way that you have is absolute clarity on issues like this, right? There's no doubt where One Nation sits. What do you think about where the Nats are going, and how much of that is about freaking out about what you can do to seats in the bush?
Look, first of all, it's great to see that common sense is starting to prevail, right? So well done. However, let's be really honest here. The only reason why it's happening is because One Nation is leading the way and has put them in this position, because voters and people are moving across to One Nation because we have been standing our ground, and everybody knows scrap net zero and what it stands for. So yes, it is a good start. However, I have my concerns. Pardon me. I have my concerns. Great. Get rid of net zero by 2050 target, says the Nationals, but still want to achieve the emissions. The question's going to be in the detail. How? How are they going to? What does their plan look like? And this week coming up into the floor of Parliament will be key. Will they be supporting or opposing the ridiculous solar and wind farms that are covering Australia and yet still coming, and foreign invested, most of them as well? Will they be standing up for farmers, which is meant to be their predominant voter demographic, and fighting? Tomago smelter is another one which is crushing because of net zero targets. So proof will be in pudding this week to see if the Nats actually stand up, whether it's just lip service or they're really going to commit to it.
I know I put a lot of pressure on you guys when I ask questions like this, but I am going to sit here. We all know where I'm coming from. You all know how I vote. You all know how I believe. But occasionally there is a need for a little bit of devil's advocate here, right? According to the opinion polls, the left has grown since the election, and they had a mega win at the election, right? What was 55-45 is now 57-43, okay? Now, great, there's been a massive reorganisation in what's happening on the right, all to the benefit of One Nation. Yay, I'm in, all right? Happy, all right? But, Daniel, this is part of there's no sense of buyer's remorse about what they did in May. Is that about the opposition, or is that about the government?
Yeah, it's a fair point, Paul. I've got a couple of observations. I mean, firstly, obviously Labor won in a landslide, but there was not a lot of enthusiasm for Labor. It was a vote against Peter Dutton and the Liberal Party, and I can tell you that as a candidate. People weren't running hand over fist saying, yeah, Anthony Albanese is going to save Australia. It was a reluctant defensive vote mostly for Labor against Peter Dutton and the Liberal Party, because Labor ran such an effective he cuts, you pay campaign that penetrated, particularly in the outer suburbs. The other point that I would make is the Liberal Party adopted, don't forget, the Liberal Party adopted net zero for the purpose of defending the Teal seats, right? Josh Frydenberg wanted to keep his seat and the other Teal candidates, well, they lost, right? So it is not a vote winner for the Liberal Party. I keep on saying this. It is not popular. People know whether you're being authentic or not authentic. And the reality is that this is a vote loser for the Liberal Party. So, look, I think this is a move that will gain public support. Again, if it is argued for, you must make the case. That's the critical point here.
All right, Lee, let's talk about One Nation and its growth, particularly in Tasmania. Now, again, it's all well and good for you to be the superstar that you are, to be the candidate, to be as available to programs like this, which means the world to us. I think you've got a mega future in front of you. And if you ever need somebody to pump your tyres, just give me a call, okay? Always here to pump your tyres, okay? But obviously you need an organisation behind it, and you're starting to get it. And that also means members, because these are the people who can go and knock on a door, for the 17 weeks of early voting, actually stand there, be it in the sun or be it in the rain. Tell me about One Nation and what you're starting to now build in Tasmania.
We have seen tremendous growth and support for One Nation, not only nationally with 100% increase in membership since the election, but specifically if I just look at Tasmania. You know, I actually launched our first branch in Tasmania a couple of weeks ago up in Bass, which is Launceston region, and the turnout was phenomenal. It was amazing. You know, the whole purpose of the branch, as you say, is to help ensure we identify the right candidates and get them elected through volunteers and support. But it's also to give them a voice. It's to ensure we understand what the real issues are. And we had that conversation at the Bass launch, and there were no surprises. The real issues which One Nation is speaking up about, hence why the support is growing, is mass immigration, is net zero, is education, is cost of living, is housing. It never ends, and people are desperate. They're seeking for strong leadership and party representation. So I've launched the first one of 4 more branches to come. So that'll be 5 in Tasmania in every electorate, which is fantastic. So the next one is on the 15th of November in the Seat of Lions. But also with that, already I've seen over a 300% growth in Tasmanian One Nation membership since the election. So it's phenomenal. But I have one challenge, which I'm not sure if you're aware of, Paul. I'm currently trying to get the party registered in Tasmania, but I have this ridiculous hurdle I have to overcome. In order to register a political party in Tasmania, we're the only state or territory which require a certain number of your membership base to publish their names and electorate address, so what's on the electoral roll, in all the newspapers in Tasmania. Now, you tell me, is that a breach of privacy
So Billy
laws?
Bloggs of Smith Street has to say, not only here's my politics, they have to put it in the freaking paper?
Yep. Correct. So we're the only state and territory in Australia that requires this, which is absolutely ridiculous. And the only way we can get this changed is through the floor of Parliament, State Parliament Tasmania. Now, as if they're going to allow One Nation change the law so One Nation can get registered easy. But we're not letting it overcome us. It is ridiculous, it is archaic and chaotic, and it needs to be changed. But the support is there. So we're getting our stat decks, and don't you worry, it won't be long before we're registered, and we'll be putting candidates in the state election and the council election. So here we come.
Yeah, let's see. All right. Well, look, it is a minority government, only held together with sort of, twine and wire. So we'll see what happens. Again, fairly lefty ones, and they're not going to be that great to One Nation. But good point. Thank you, guys. Do appreciate it. We'll see you again next week. No sooks, no lefties. Good chat.